What's going on, guys? Dottz here, and today I'm bringing you a build that you've probably not seen from me for a while here on YouTube, and that is going to be my updated Magicka Warden PvP builds for the Elder Scrolls Online Deadlands patch. So as I did say in my Stamina Nightblade PvP build video, thanks to the new armory system that ZeniMax put in the game, I'm actually now able to cover more builds and more characters here on my YouTube channel than ever before, because now my Warden doesn't have to only be a Stamden or a Magden. He can be both, and he currently is. So I did set him up with a brand new Magicka Warden PvP build, and you know, Magden not in the best of spots in the current meta game. I do think the class definitely needs some buffs, but with that being said, just because, you know, class might be a little bit on the weaker side doesn't mean you can't make a build that works. And what I have today has actually worked very well for me in PvP on the Magden. I always like playing my Magden in a small group or with others, especially at battlegrounds. Like, you just have so much off healing and so much team capability on top of some great damage that you offer. And this build has been a ton of fun. The sustain feels solid, damage feels good, tankiness is there, healing is there. Probably lacks a little bit on the mobility side. I think that's probably the build's biggest weakness, but overall I feel like I can manage without it. And like I said, build's been fun, been liking it a lot. Now, guys, like I always do say, this is just what I like, what I use, and what has been working for me. If you want to run something else, change something else, alter something else, go right ahead. This has just been what I have found success with. So, kicking things off, guys, with our gear. Kicking it right off, we're going to be going with Malabeth. So Malabeth's going to give us a line of maximum health, and when you take damage, you have a 10% chance to create a beam that steals health over 6 seconds from the attacker. Now, while the beam holds, you gain major vitality, increasing your healing received by 16%. The beam breaks if the enemy moves further than 8 meters away, and this effect can occur once every 6 seconds and scales off your maximum health. So our maximum health with just standing around is about, I think, 30.2k. I don't think I have major toughness up. No, I do not. So it's 30.2k just standing around. And then if I also heal myself with something, with minor toughness, our health goes up to about 33k. So we're able to get a lot of value out of Malabeth. I know, like, it's not like 33k is like super crazy high, like you see some people with like 40k plus health builds, but still, for just like a regular build, 33k health is, I think, a really solid amount. And the big important thing is that major vitality is going to really give us the healing augmentation that I do kind of feel that Magden needs. I've actually personally for this patch found healing to be a little bit more efficient than just going for like raw resistance and damage mitigation. I've really found healing to be valuable paired with some good percent mitigation, and so Malabeth, I've really enjoyed it on the Magden, and so we are running it for that reason. Now, our front bar 5-piece is going to be Ancient Dragon Guard. This gives me a line of maximum health, a line of spell damage, a line of crit, and it gives 289 spell damage when your health is above 50%, and it gives 3,300 physical and spell resist when your health is below 50%. So I really, with the Magden, wanted to do my normal front bar set, back bar set, mythic trainee, monster set. Like, that's been like some of my favorite combos for Magicka characters this patch, and I was like needed to find a way to do that. And I was looking at my front bar set options and trying to think about what I would want. And you know, when I was testing stuff out, I felt kind of squishy on the front bar sometimes, and I was like, I've never tried single barring Ancient Dragon Guard. Let's YOLO give it a shot. And honestly, I actually surprisingly really like it. The good thing about it is that you get that damage on your front bar when you need it, when your health is high, when you want to pump the big deeps. But the good thing is that unlike some other builds, you're also not going to be completely squishy on the front bar if you get caught with your pants down. You know, if you get caught and you take some damage, you get down to 50% health and you're still on that front bar before you're able to swap, the resistance kicks in, you gain some extra tankiness, and you're not just going to flop immediately. And so Ancient Dragon Guard is really good for that. I also really do like the set. I find it to be an extremely versatile set. It's like a built for PvP version of like Julianus or Hundings. You know, like, I just really enjoy the set a lot, and I've personally gotten a lot of great use out of it. Now, our back bar 5-piece is going to be Clever Alchemist. So Clever Alchemist is going to give us 2 lines of maximum health, a line of spell damage, and when you drink a potion during combat, you feel a rush of energy, increasing your spell damage by 651 for 20 seconds. This is going to be a gigantic driver of damage for us. Clever Alchemist is a very, very good set. Now that it's finally unbugged, I can finally start using it again. You know, again, Magden, not the strongest class at the moment, so I wanted a set that gave me a really, really big on-demand burst of spell damage, and I wanted to try something that was single barred so that I could pair it with another single barred set to be able to really get a nice boost to my damage, and I feel like Clever Alchemist really fit the bill perfectly. On top of that, big spell damage like this on both bars combined with Malabeth is also going to give us really big heals, and so I've really liked Clever Alchemist for that reason. I think it's a great single bar set, plus those 2 lines of maximum health with how much stuff that we do have scaling off of maximum health. The 2 lines of max health are going to be extremely valuable for us. Now, on our jewelry, I also do run 1 piece of trainee. This is just going to give us another line of maximum health. You know, we have a front bar set, a back bar set, a monster set, and a mythic. That leaves 1 free slot. Trainee fits the bill perfectly by giving us that big 1400 maximum health bonus. Now, the mythic that I do run on the build personally is going to be the Malakath Band of Brutality. This is going to increase our damage done by 16%, but decrease our critical damage by 50%. I chose to kind of forego crit for this build and focus just more on flat damage increases. Also, because my stamina isn't as high as some of my other builds, it's about 16.5k, not as high as some of my other builds. And so because of that, I really desperately wanted to run tri-stat pots. And so I knew that if I don't have the room on my bar for Major Prophecy, so I'm just going to use Malakath. And so I've really enjoyed Malakath. It's really been nice for the Magden. Been liking it a lot. Gives us that flat damage increase that I think we need. And it's been working out really well for me. Now, in terms of our weights and traits and everything, I believe I'm in the 3 heavy. We have heavy shoulders, chest, and legs, light gloves, belt, and boots with a medium helmet. I am running basically all impen. I want to change the chest to reinforced. I just haven't gotten around to doing it, but I want to change the chest to reinforced. So you're going to want 1 reinforced heavy chest and then 6 impen, triple arcane, 2 spell damage, and 1 magicka recovery. By the way, the jewelry piece could be either a Clever Alchemist ring or an Ancient Dragon Guard ring, depends on what you want to craft. We do Ancient Dragon Guard lightning staff sharpened on the front bar with an increased weapon damage glyph, and then the back bar, I do a Nirnhoned weapon with a reinforced shield, magic enchanted. Now, in terms of our skills, our first skill is going to be Force Pulse. So I am not running like a Vamp build. I know there's like a Vamp Magden build that's been floating around, but I wanted to do something a little bit more traditional. And so I went with Force Pulse. It's going to give us a blast of energy, giving us Flame Frosted shock damage. And then up to 2 nearby enemies will take 11k magic damage if they're already afflicted with a status effect. So the reason I like Force Pulse specifically for the Magden over Crushing Shock is that it gives you a lot of burst during your Northern Storm. So Northern Storm is Twist the Violent Storm around you, dealing 5,300 frost damage every second for 8 seconds to enemies around you, reducing their movement speed by 40%, increasing your max magicka by 15% for 30 seconds, and then you also gain major protection. But during this, you're going to be very much easily proccing the chilled status effect. And so when all the enemies around you are chilled, as you light attack Force Pulse them, on top of using Shulks, which is going to give a 16k about magic damage tooltip that deals AoE damage and then afflicts major breach, you are just going to be doing just so much cleave damage between Northern Storm, Force Pulse, and Deep Fissure. So that's kind of why I went with Force Pulse over Crushing Shock for me personally. So just wanted to go through and explain that. And as we explained that, I explained 2 other abilities. We also do use Fetcher Infection. Fetcher Infection is going to be the primary dot on the build. This is going to give you a 14.5k magic damage dot over 10 seconds, and then every second cast the ability will deal 50% increased damage. And this also does give us minor vulnerability on our target. So the good thing is that we're able to do 5% increased damage to them, so just kind of helps our dots and our burst damage do that much more on the offensive side of things. We also do run Bird of Prey. This is going to be our source of movement in the build. You know, so we do have Major Expedition in the build. When I did say earlier that, you know, movement and mobility is not the best, it's because I actually have far gone running a like snare removal ability. I actually just rely mostly on I rely mostly on Betty to remove that, but you still actually have pretty solid mobility with Bird of Prey, giving you that major expedition for 30% increased movement speed. But on top of that, it gives you minor berserk, increasing your damage done by 5%. So just another percent boost to our damage in the build. You know, combines also really well with that minor vulnerability on our opponents. So we're getting some good percent augmentations. I am now also running Shimmering Shield. So Shimmering Shield is going to absorb a lot of damage from 3 projectiles. And every time you absorb a projectile, you restore 740 Magicka, and you gain major heroism for 6 seconds, granting you 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. So Shimmering Shield is such a great skill. It's such a good skill. It gives you amazing ranged defense, and on top of that, it also lets you get to your ultimate significantly quicker due to that major heroism. And I really like Shimmering Shield. I've actually in the past, like, you know, you guys know if you've watched my builds before, you know I'm a huge fan of Mist Form, huge fan of Snare and Root Immunity. For some reason with the Magden, I've always felt like I heavily underutilized Mist Form, and I never really used it all that much, and I couldn't, you know, I don't know, I just never really used it when I played. And so I decided, you know what, let me try to just say screw Mist Form, and I'm gonna just run Shimmering Shield as my range defense instead, and it has worked so much better. So I really like Shimmering Shield for that reason. Very great skill. Just Magicka, heroism, blocks damage, super, super, super good. On the back bar, in the back bar SMB, we are running Budding Seeds. I've never run this skill before. This is the first patch I've ever run this skill, and I freaking love it. So this is going to summon a field of flowers, which blooms after 6 seconds, healing you and allies in the area for 11k health. While the field grows, your allies are healed for 1258 every second. So this is going to be our primary hot. But the cool thing about Budding Seeds is that you can activate this ability to cause it to instantly bloom, or an ally can also even activate a synergy, healing them for 10k health over 5 seconds. I actually really like Budding Seeds. I've always found recently that I've been having a little bit of trouble with my Magden builds in terms of healing. I personally have tried using Lotus Flower in the past, and it's always just felt a little underwhelming to me. And I didn't want to level a resto staff, I'm gonna be honest. And so I was like, what can I use as a hot on the back bar to heal myself? I feel like I'm missing something, and I saw Budding Seeds, and I was like, let me try it. I love it. It can be a hot. You can use it as a burst heal. It's a giant AoE, so it can heal allies as well. It is just a very, very good skill, and I really like it a lot. And if you haven't given it a try, I do recommend giving it a shot. I really like it. It's been a great skill for me. Also, still do run Living Trellis. So Living Trellis is going to heal the target for 2340 health every time they take damage, every second. And then when the vines expire, they heal for another 5665. So the Living Trellis combined with Budding Seeds, combined with Major Vitality from Malameth, it's going to give a really good amount of tick healing, especially if you also combine that with Arctic Blast. So this is going to heal you for 6400 health immediately, and then another 796 every 1 second for 5 seconds. This will obviously be higher when we actually have minor toughness up. And this also does deal some damage, 1839 frost damage every second to nearby enemies, and then enemies hit by this effect 3 times are stunned for 4 seconds. This is also going to be our primary CC in the build. It's kind of one thing Magden's struggled with for a long time, is not really having any good crowd control options. And so unfortunately, this is going to be our main one. But I really like this triple healing package right here of Budding Seeds, Living Trellis, and Arctic Blast. To me, it's felt like a very, very good combo combined with the range defense of Shimmering Shield. And so that is what I've been using. Been liking it a lot. We also do use Ice Fortress, so you wrap a thick cloak of ice around you and your allies, granting them major resolve for 24 seconds, but also this gives minor protection, reducing your damage taken by 5% for 24 seconds. So the great thing about this build is that it has both major and minor protection present, so with both of those up, you are going to be very tanky during that time. We also do, of course, run the Blue Betty. This is going to give us 5k Magicka over 25 seconds and give us Major Brutality and Sorcery. But every 5 seconds, this net will remove 1 negative effect from us, and so if you ever... And it does when you cast it as well. So if you are in a situation where you need to get out of a route ASAP, you just spam this. Just keep spamming it, and it'll take you out, hopefully, eventually. But that's what I've been using mostly for my root immunity, snare root immunity, and it's been working well enough for me. Like I said, I've actually have found more traditional forms of standard root immunity to not be as useful for me on my Magden. So Blue Betty kind of just covers that as a little bit of an extra thing. Also do run Healing Thicket on that back bar. I know a lot of Magdens really like running like the bear on the front bar for the animal companion passives for the 2% increased damage, or they like to run Meteor for the Mages Guild passives, and then they'll run Northern Storm on the back bar. But for me, I have found it a lot more useful to just use Northern Storm on the front bar and then Healing Thicket on the back bar, because this shit heals for so much. It's going to heal the most friendly injured target for 9,400 health. The forest continues to heal you and your allies in the area for 3,100 every 1 second for 6 seconds. And the healing over time will continue to heal you or your allies for 4 seconds after leaving the forest. So essentially, this has a 10-second duration. But the reason I like this skill, it is dirt cheap. It is 84 ultimate, and with the Warden's ultimate generation, like, you have this up so much. And so like if you're in a BG or something, you could essentially be like a pseudo off healer between Budding Seeds, Living Trellis, Healing Thicket. Like I actually had one of the people, like when I was running this guy at BGs, I had a couple people whispering me being like, yo, your healing was nuts, and I'm like on a normal damage build, you know? So it's really good. I definitely recommend it, and I've personally been liking it for my my back bar ultimate. Now, in terms of our stats, we got about 32k maximum Magicka on that front bar with 32.5 on the back bar, 30k unbuffed health with 16.3k maximum stamina. I'm running 1800 Magicka recovery with 3159 spell damage. Do keep in mind that we do have Clever Alchemist, so that's going to give us a giant boost to the spell damage when we actually use it. We have 15.9k spell resist with 13.7k physical resistance, and on the back bar it goes up to 17.8 and 15.6 with 2200 crit resist. Just keep in mind, these resistances will probably look a little bit different if you are running that reinforced chest. We do run the Atronach Mundus Stone for some extra recovery. To me, this 1800 mark is important to hit for like BGs and stuff. So like I've tried running less and I personally struggle with it. So this is kind of like what I aim for. And I use the ice cream food, Ghastly Eyeball, in order to get to that. So one of the great things about my character being an Imperial, because this guy is also my Stamina Warden, is that I get big boosts to health and to stamina, where if I was running like a Breton, I would need to get that from like Tri-Stat food. But I could just use Ice Cream, and that gives me giant boost to my Magicka, big boost to my Magicka recovery, and then my health and my stamina are going to be coming from my race. So I really like Ghastly Eyeball for my food for this. Again, I feel like I needed that recovery, and I didn't want to just run all these freaking as recovery, like all these spell damage glyphs, you know? I only need one, thankfully, and so I can run 2 spell damage glyphs, and it just gives me a good amount of recovery. And so, to me, it's been a really, really good food. I haven't run this food on a PvP build, I don't think, ever. So, it's cool to actually see it get some use. But yeah, in terms of race, I would personally, for the Magicka Warden, recommend either Imperial or Breton. I personally, for my Magden, feel that I need to be a sustained race. I don't like damage races on the Magden. I always struggle to sustain with them personally. I would recommend, like I said, either Imperial or Breton. You're probably going to want to like tune your food a little bit if you do go Breton, because if you do, your stamina is going to be in the toilet on this build, because again, I'm getting a huge boost of stamina from being an Imperial, because I don't like to run less than 16k stam ever. And so if you're a Breton, you're losing that 2k stam, so you're going to be like really low. So you're going to either need to run like tri-stats on every piece of gear, or you're going to need to run tri-stat food. Maybe you need to adjust some enchants, but you're going to have to make some changes for sure. But I actually think Imperial is actually surprisingly extremely good for the Magden. I find the 6% cost reduction across the board to be really valuable, especially on those ultimates, especially because Northern Storm is a bit expensive. So getting 6% cost reduction is great. And like, regardless if you're a magic character or a stamina character, 2,000 max stam and 2,000 maximum health is going to be insanely useful to you. So I find the Imperial to be a very, very good race, and probably my favorite for that Magicka Warden. Now, in terms of our potion, we just, like I said earlier, we just run regular tri-stat pots. Because I'm running like my stamina slightly on the lower end, I find these to be extremely desirable to make my, like, so that I don't feel like I'm constantly out of stam. So these are like my potion of choice for sure. Now, in terms of our champion points, guys, we are going to be using Master at Arms to increase our direct damage. We're also going to be running Biting Aura. This is going to increase our AoE. So between Biting Aura, between the Lightning Staff, we're trying to go for that max damage on the Shulks as well as the Northern Storm. We're going to be going with Duelist Rebuff for 10% damage reduction, as well as Ironclad for 10% on direct damage. Duelist Rebuff was on a single target, and these two cover most of what we are scared of in PvP. Now, on the red CP side of things, we run Boundless Vitality for 1400 maximum health. I run Pain's Refuge for 2% damage mitigation for every 2 negative effects on us, up to a maximum of 20%. Because this build doesn't have Snare and Root immunity, you definitely will be in the fray a bit, and so Pain's Refuge is going to be really good to help keep you tanky. Sustained by Suffering is going to be a nice boost to HP, as long as you have a negative, or excuse me, recovery, as long as you have a negative effect on you in PvP, which you always will. You're getting 150 extra recovery. And then I also do run, because I do use a Sword and Board, and because, again, our stamina is slightly on the lower side, we use Survival Instincts. This is going to reduce our core combat skills by 25% while we have a status effect on us, so it's going to help make our core combat skills a lot cheaper, which, by the way, is also an advantage to Imperial, because Red Diamond, it reduces all of your core combat skills, so you get a lot of good core combat cost reduction, so the stamina being more towards 16k really isn't going to be the end of the world. Now, in terms of a rotation for this build, guys, you want to maintain on yourself at all times Blue Betty, Ice Fortress, and that's it. Thankfully, this build doesn't have a crazy amount of buff and debuff maintenance, so you really got to only focus on those two. Otherwise, you're going Fetcher Infection, Deep Fissure, Light Attack, Force Pulse, and then the Deep Fissure goes off, and you just repeat Fissure, Force Pulse, and then Refreshing, Fetcher Infection whenever you need it. Whenever you need to move quickly, use Bird of Prey. Whenever you're getting attacked from range, use Simmering Shield. Whenever you have the ultimate to go for Northern Storm, use it, and then just keep repeating the same rotation with those 3 skills. Defensively, your goal is to just go through your rotation. Arctic Blast, Living Trellis, Budding Seeds. You just use all those skills, you'll get healed back up. If you feel that you're in a desperate need for a heal, I actually find it more useful to reuse Budding Seeds, just because it's a big heal and it's really cheap. So I just reuse Budding Seeds, and that'll give me a nice heal. You could also reactivate Living Trellis should you need to. But with these 3 skills, you have a really solid healing package, especially if Malabeth does proc. If you feel like you are taking a lot of damage and you need some defense, you could also then use Healing Thicket to give you and your allies some absolutely massive healing. But guys, that is going to be it for me on the Magicka Warden. And I have to say, I know Magden really isn't in the strongest of spots right now, but I actually find the class to be a lot more enjoyable than I expected it to be. It's been really, really fun to play. And personally, like, I really love playing it in groups. I find it to be very fun. And so if you're, you know, looking for a Magden build, if you've been struggling on your Magden, give the new Froststorm build a try. And I think you will find success with it, because I know I sure have. And guys, if you did like this video and if you found it helpful to you, I would appreciate it if you left a like on it. If you have any questions about the build, feel free to leave a comment below. And for more ESO content, as well as other MMO content, feel free to hit that sub button, as well as hit the bell to keep those notifications on. So thank you all so much for stopping by today. I do very much appreciate it. As always, I'm Dottz Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next video.